What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com. I'm a blind film critic, and I've never reviewed a stand-up special before. And this one has audio description. So, for purposes of me being intrigued, I decided to check out and review Seth Meyers' Dad Man Walking, which is available on Max with audio description. I believe this was 3Play Media, and I was intrigued because when you think about stand-up comedy, it's not something that as a blind person think, oh, well, I need audio description. Because comedy albums used to be a thing. Stand-up comedians used to just stand and be able to tell a joke. And there wasn't a whole lot of physical comedy involved in everybody's humor. A lot of it was translated specifically through to comedy albums. And comedy albums used to sell really well because of that. You could just put one on. You didn't have to go show up to the show, although people wanted to, but it was a great experience for those who maybe lived in towns that didn't have immediate access to major stand-up talent like Richard Pryor, George Carlin, somebody like that, Lenny Bruce. Those people made a lot of money off of albums. Later on, we got the movies, Eddie Murphy Raw, that kind of hit the theaters, and it added sort of a cinematic quality to the stand-up special. And of course, stand-up continued to evolve through HBO, through Comedy Central, and more people got to see stand-up without actually being in the room for stand-up. And suddenly, stand-up comedians have a broader access to fans who may never actually show up to see them in person, but will become fans of them through their multiple stand-up specials, and likely still buying their albums and CDs for those that still release them. So I remember in the mid-2000s when Dane Cook was a thing, and he dropped an album, and I swear it sold well because I was of the age, the college age, and like fucking everybody I knew owned the Dane Cook album. Like it was the album that he had before he did the HBO docuseries Tourgasm. It's like really when he hit his peak. I don't know what the name of the album was called, but it was like his rise to stardom, and I swear to God, everybody had that Dane Cook album. Like they may not admit to it now because it's not cool to talk about Dane Cook. There's a reason he was in movies. There's a reason why he had his own docuseries. He had a moment, whether you like it or not. You can't gaslight me into pretending like he didn't. Nickelback was a thing. Like these things they happened. We for a minute in time we were like, yep, that is the thing. I was thinking the other day, nostalgically to somebody who was younger than me, the song What Would You Do by City High. I was like, when you really think about it, that's a really weird song to jam out to. But it was on the radio. It was a top 40 hit. What would you do if your son was at home? Like, those lyrics are really dark. And people are like jamming in their car. They're like, yeah, I know all the lyrics to this song. And it's like, have you thought about the lyrics to this song? So Seth Meyers is, somebody I was familiar with mostly because of Saturday Night Live, and then obviously into his late night show. I'm a fan. Even when I don't watch his show, I still try to find his closer looks because I think they're brilliant. And I think I was expecting more of that. This is just him talking about being a dad, which, duh, Dad Man Walking, that one's on me. But the fact that like the whole thing, I was a little surprised. But yeah, it talks about him being like sort of a dad and a husband for the whole time. And I did get a little tired of it, if I'm being honest, even as a Seth Meyers fan, because I'm so used to his political comedy that, and I am also not a father. So, even though I can find jokes funny, and yeah, some of them landed, and they're universal. Some humor is universal, regardless of whether or not you directly can relate to it or not. A joke is funny if it's funny. When you get like an hour of it, you're like, man, this is I feel like I left out. He makes a joke about the people who are not parents in the room, and he's like, well, at least you get to go home to a house without any fucking children in it, you know, and it's a good joke, but at the same time, I wonder what those people like. Did they enjoy the show as much as the other people? Because I think there's something to be said about when you're talking so much heavily about one topic, you end up sort of uh, really speaking to a specific audience. And I think Seth Meyers' special was speaking to a specific audience that related a lot to what it was that he was saying and understood. And we're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I see that. Yeah, I get that. Oh, my kid does that all the time. Oh my God, I've totally been there. Like that's because comedians often find the funny in the truth. And if you're more aware of what the truth is, then it's funnier to you. But a lot of the things to me, I was like, I don't get it. I I would love to have a kid and I'd love to get it, but also you make it sound like having kids is like nightmarish. But some of the jokes are just objectively funny. So to each their own, I guess. It wouldn't be my favorite stand-up special. I didn't laugh riotously throughout the whole thing. If I'm grading a stand-up special, I don't even know how to grade stand-up specials. I've never done that before. Um, but I And I've seen some of the ones that were theatrically released. I saw Martin Lawrence's Run Tell That in theaters. I saw the original Kings of Comedy when that had a theatrical release. So, I mean, I've been in theaters for some. Obviously, I do watch. I just have never thought about reviewing one before. So I decided with Seth Meyers' special, it does have audio description. I never talked about what does that mean for blind viewers? Like, what does that mean for me as a blind viewer? How does it help me? And with Seth Meyers, he does a lot of physical comedy. There's a bit where he's laying on the ground and he's pretending to roll dice. And that joke, out of context, if there was no audio description there, I wouldn't have known he was lying on the ground. I wouldn't know. And he does have some physicality in his humor and some things that he does that are very specific, some movements and stuff like that, where it enhances the joke. It is part of the joke. It might be even the punchline to the joke is a way that he moves in a certain way that accentuates what it is that he's saying. So it's one of those things where it's like, I could have watched this, but then there have been times where maybe I wouldn't have laughed and I wouldn't have understood why other people were laughing. And it contextualizes everything so much more. So it's really sort of underrated because you're like, well, what do you do for a stand-up special? Because a lot of the stuff that I look for with audio description in terms of film, I think about what does he look like? What does the set look like? Where are we? Costuming, camera angle. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm thinking about like all the things that go into a movie, color grading or whatever. Like what can we put into this film? What do the monsters look like? Facial expressions and stuff like that. But that's not really what this is. This is more just sort of paying attention to what he's doing physically and whether or not he's doing a joke, and occasionally, mentioning that he laughs or he smirks or does something. I would say that I would call it like filler audio description. The biggest highlighters, though, are the times when you're actually bringing out something that is part of the joke, so that way we're getting the whole thing instead of part of the thing, and being offered an opportunity to laugh and to understand why something is funny instead of being left out of something, which is the other side of that. So it was very interesting to actually sit here and think about it from a blind film critic perspective of what do I say about a track like this. And I don't think I appreciate it enough. And I should be talking more about other things. It's easy to talk about like film and television shows and narrative, fictional dramas and stuff like that. But there's so much more than that about what audio description can do and should do and will do, and how blind people consume things. So would I turn on audio description again? Absolutely. for a stand-up comic special. I have before, actually. I just haven't reviewed anything. So that's that. So I'm not going to grade it because I don't actually conceptually understand how to grade a stand-up special. Like I don't think I watch enough of them to be able to. There's no grade to this. So sorry, I can't figure out. It's like, is it funny? Like, I think a lot of people, like I said, I think to some people this is funnier to them, and it is a. I walked into a stand-up show about being a dad, and I'm not one, so I'm going to struggle to understand every single joke because it's not my perspective. If I walked into a stand-up comedian who was a black female and her whole thing was about her struggles as being a black woman, some of it's going to be funny, but that is not my life experience. So it doesn't mean that they're not funny. I love people like Leslie Jones. I fucking love Leslie Jones. But is she going to say some things where I'm like, I don't get that? Absolutely. So, but does that mean that I need a whole bunch of like single gay blind stand-up comedians with no children to suddenly pop up so I can be like, my life experience? Thank you. Oh my God. He's just like me. No, I mean, like I said, you can find funny in pretty much anything. And there's a host of stand-up comedians that I really enjoy. I'd say my favorite is Lewis Black, who I've actually seen in person. So if you're trying to go with like, who do I put at the top? I'm a huge fan of Lewis Black. And I love listening to his podcast. So anyway, that's it. Great audio description. Like I said, I'm not grading it. It's the first review I've ever done for stand-up specials. So like, I don't even know where the jumping off point is for this. And it's unfair to sort of put this against narrative features or TV shows. So we'll see if I start grading more stand-up specials, if I start reviewing more of them. But this is just sort of a gamble, and I wanted to get it out there about what it's like to be blind and watching a stand-up special on any of these streaming services with audio description. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.